name is Sheila Lamb, and I'm with the Virginia SBDC Network. For those of you who are not familiar with our organization, the Virginia Small Business Development Center is a partnership program between the U.S. Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and local host institutions throughout Virginia. With 26 locations across the Commonwealth, we provide training and technical assistance to small businesses in their local communities. Our one-on-one advising services are available at no charge. Today's webinar, How to Manage Your WordPress Website, is presented by the Virginia SBDC Network. We are recording today's presentation, and it will be posted on our website, virginiasbdc.org. Due to the large number of participants, everyone's microphone is muted, but if you have questions during the presentation, you can type those into the Q&A box. We have also enabled the live transcript function, which you can show or hide via your meeting controls. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our presenter for today's session, Cameron Nelson, CEO of Tenzing Startup Consultants. Cameron has over 19 years of experience in technology and is a senior tech consultant in Silicon Valley, helping Fortune 500 companies improve their digital marketing and e-commerce. At the same time, he founded several tech companies, including a software as a service website for tree preservation and a blockchain platform for nonprofits. Cameron is accomplished in language, culture, has an MBA and MA, and believes new technology products have the ability to help shape our world for the better. Please join me in welcoming our presenter for today, Cameron Nelson.
Thank you for the introduction. And hello, everybody, and welcome to the session on how to manage your WordPress website. I've been giving a session on WordPress websites for several years, and it's an increasingly important topic as businesses and startups try to have a really solid online presence. They have their outlets of social media pages, but every business really does need their own website. So whether or not you have a business with an existing website, and maybe that's already on WordPress, or you're just starting out and thinking about you need a website for your business, this session should be pretty informative for you. There's a lot of new changes and advancements that have happened in the realm of website development over the last 3 or 4 years. I'll be touching on some of the most important ones, such as AI, and the editing interface called Elementor. And this will give you a well-rounded perspective on everything you need to know to start building your first WordPress website, and also how to manage that for the life of your business. So you don't really need to rely on external developers. It costs a lot of money. For the most part, many business owners can manage their own WordPress websites, and that's what I'm going to be showing you. I'll have time for your questions at the end of the presentation, so feel free to jot those down as we go, and I'll get to as many of them as possible. So with that, let's jump right into it. We have 4 goals for the presentation today. The first goal is to discover what WordPress is and talk about if you should be using it for your business. Because WordPress is not the only website building platform out there, and there's some pros and cons, which we'll go into. Secondly, I'm going to give a brief overview of this editing interface that's part of some WordPress websites, but not all, which is called Elementor. We're going to learn the basics of Elementor and if you should use it, if it's an option in your WordPress website. Third, I'm going to show you how to set up your WordPress website for the first time. This includes finding your WordPress theme, which is the starting look and feel of your website, and getting into all the different options and settings you'll need to configure to launch your website to the world. And fourth, I'm going to talk about some of the more advanced techniques of customizing your WordPress website, editing content of pages, including text, images, and maybe even video, installing plugins, and covering all those other areas that you need to be aware of as you go about building a WordPress website so you're comfortable with the platform. So first, I want to talk briefly about an overview of WordPress, what it is, and should your business be using it. As I mentioned, websites are becoming an ever more critical part of any business's success nowadays. And WordPress started over 10 years ago as a platform for people to easily create blogs on, and it's evolved a lot since then into one of the most robust and actually the most widely used website building platform in the world. Many, even large businesses use WordPress, some of the Fortune 500 companies, because it's a quick and easy alternative to building a website and coding it from absolute scratch. So it has a lot of features and tools which help you build a website and maintain it easier. But like with any new piece of software, there is going to be some work that you'll have to do before you're ready to get your website out there in front of the world. It is available and accessible to people with no website building experience, as well as those who might have already built a website or two. So some of the key benefits of using WordPress that I have seen is that WordPress is widely supported. So what this means is that if your website visitor is on a mobile device, could be an iPhone or an Android phone, could be a tablet, could be a Windows computer or a Mac computer, you can rest assured that your website, which is built on the WordPress platform, is going to be supported on any of these devices. And as new devices come out and new operating system versions are released, WordPress also updates its code base, so you are always going to be compliant and supported across pretty much every operating system out there today. Secondly, multiple users can contribute to your website building and maintenance. WordPress allows you to create free user logins for employees, friends, or somebody you've hired to help you with your website. So you can easily give them their own username and credentials and access levels. And it's actually quite easy to set up. And this allows you to maintain good control and security of your website in the long term. Third, you can choose your own website host. Because WordPress is a nonprofit organization that actually maintains this code and this platform, they don't care which company you use to host the website on. And when I say host, it is the computer or the server that's somewhere in the world that's actually storing your website files and serving those up to your website visitors. Some of the biggest hosts are Google and GoDaddy, which you might have heard of, but there's literally thousands of others. Many hosts have different pros and cons, some are cheaper, some have different features. So the fact that you can choose any host you want is a big plus in using WordPress. You're not locked into one hosting provider. Fourth, plugins add a lot of great functionality and enhancements. Plugins give you the ability to quickly insert elements to a website, which could be something like a calendar or a video player or a contact form or thousands of other things that you might want to add to your existing WordPress theme. And you don't have to know how to code to get these plugins to work. And so the nice thing is they're just ready and kind of off-the-shelf solutions. Some are free and some you would pay a small fee for. So you have access to thousands of great plugins with WordPress. Next, WordPress is built with search engine optimization in mind. Search engine optimization is the art of having your website appear higher up in search result rankings, could be at Google or Microsoft or any other search engine. As these search engines update their internal algorithms of how they rank websites, WordPress is constantly updating its own code to be compliant with the latest changes. And these changes do happen several times a year. So the fact that WordPress is looking out for you and making sure that you don't have to worry about, oh, is your website code going to be updated for this latest change Google is doing, they always are on top of that for you. Next, you can start with many customizable themes for your WordPress website. And this is great. The theme is a starting point with the look and the feel that you desire, and then you can customize it with your own images and text, and to some extent customize the layout and add and remove elements. There's thousands of themes to choose from. Some are free and some you pay a small one-time fee to purchase. And also, most web hosts like Google or GoDaddy offer a one-click install of WordPress platform. So what this means is you don't need to know how to code or set up anything complicated. And generally, these hosts will say, are you building a website? Is it on WordPress? Yes or no? And if you just say yes, it will then install the WordPress platform in the back end and set everything up for you. So again, you don't need to know how to code to build on WordPress. So these are the benefits. Now, I would say one of the major reality checks for people building their first WordPress website is just the amount of time it takes to learn the interface, which is what I'm going to be showing you mostly today. And I would anticipate that it'll take most people about 2 to 5 hours per month to maintain your WordPress website for installing updates, for security. You might be solving some bugs, if even like typos or other little bugs, or adding content. And if you don't have this amount of time to spend, then you might want to consider you can even hire a professional website developer to do many of these tasks for you. But in some situations, a business may be better served with a simpler website platform, such as Squarespace or Wix. Now, both of these take less time to maintain your website. They offer a lot less flexibility in building your website, though. And that's the downside, is they're not able to grow with a business like WordPress is. Like I mentioned, even giant multi-billion dollar companies are using WordPress because it's flexible enough and it can grow with your business. And I'm sure you'd all like to have a billion-dollar business someday. You don't see those types of websites for those companies built on Squarespace or Wix because those platforms are limited and by the amount of options and customizability that they offer you. So this is just a brief overview for WordPress. Hopefully you are now feeling that WordPress is a good choice for you, but if not, then Squarespace and Wix are two good alternatives. I want to talk a little bit more about some of these alternatives and some of the pros and cons as they compare directly to WordPress. So as already mentioned, WordPress, it offers thousands of plugins and themes, though you will have to select your own hosting company, could be Google or GoDaddy. And so this is an extra step that some people don't really like to manage, creating that hosting account. A platform like Wix or Squarespace or Shopify, they handle this a little differently, whereas they are the host for the websites themselves, which is good because you have one less login to remember, but it's a downside because they do charge more generally because you don't have the ability to shop around for your host. As it relates to small business users, I think the highest pro for WordPress is that it's highly customizable, it's very SEO friendly, and it has a very large community for support, whether they're the plugin developers, the theme developers, and lots of people using WordPress asking questions and finding answers from this community. But the major con is that it does have a steeper learning curve. And if you don't update plugins, you can introduce some security vulnerabilities and also compatibility uh, issues if your plugins are outdated. So if you compare that to Wix, the biggest pro for Wix is that it's extremely user-friendly. It has a pretty big template library, though it's definitely not in the thousands like WordPress, and it includes the hosting plan, so it's simpler to set up, but it is more expensive per month. The con is that it's much less flexible than other platforms as far as the layout and the look and feel of your website. And also you can't switch your template after your website is live. So Squarespace is a competitor to Wix, and it allows you to build very beautiful looking websites that are going to be mobile responsive, which means they work well on mobile phones. But the con here is similar to Wix, is a lot less flexible than WordPress, and it has limited third-party plugins to add functionality. When it comes to Shopify, this is a very e-commerce focused website building platform. So if you have a store that's selling, handmade soaps or something that you have, a batch of products and you want to sell, Shopify is excellent for that. They really build in the e-commerce shopping cart experience with all of their websites. Though it does have pretty high monthly fees. You would spend significantly more using Shopify and their e-commerce than you would using WordPress and their e-commerce to sell your products on. So with pricing and plans, WordPress, the software itself is free, but the main cost you're going to spend on is the hosting. You can expect around $6 to $10 per month for your hosting plan, depending on the features that you need. Wix offers a free plan, but it's going to label Wix branding and their logo all over your site, which doesn't look very professional. So to remove that, you need to spend $14 a month at a minimum, but that cost goes up pretty quickly if you need more features. With Squarespace, plans start at $12 a month and go up to $18 and higher depending on the level of features you need. Shopify is, relatively speaking, a rather expensive platform at $29 per month, up to almost $300 per month if you need their advanced features. So as this comparison stands for most people here, WordPress is going to be the best option, but there are these other options here available. So something that's come along in the last year and a half has been AI, and it's being integrated, it seems, in every aspect of our online experience. WordPress is no different. They also have integrated AI features. Here's a couple of them that are pretty handy. One AI feature in WordPress is you can generate original text. So if you want a heading or a paragraph to describe your product, you can have AI write that for you. Of course, you need to give it some guidance and some prompts, but it can then write a very nice couple sentences or even couple paragraphs describing a product or a business, or it can enhance your existing text, rewrite that for you. Next, you can also automatically translate your website into any language. So if you're selling to people in other countries, this can be really helpful. You don't need to worry about, say, using Google Translate and copying, pasting different languages and making different versions of pages. The AI can instantly translate text to a very high degree of accuracy. So those are just a couple of the AI tools that are put in WordPress now, and there's a lot more coming, of course. I wouldn't be surprised if we soon see creating images on the fly for your WordPress website using AI, maybe even videos in 2025. So a lot of things happening with AI. Now, one question I get asked about quite a bit is this thing called Elementor. And Elementor is one of several possible editing interfaces that you might see when building your WordPress website. Now, because all the WordPress websites are made by either the WordPress nonprofit organization, and they've made a few dozen, but most people branch out from that and they find a WordPress theme from an independent developer, could be a freelancer or a company. And these developers have the option of including what's called Elementor in the WordPress website that you purchase or get for free. So this is just an editing interface, which we'll look at quickly because some people hear about this and they're not sure what it is. It's probably the most popular page building interface, which offers a very nice visual and drag and drop way to add things to your website as you edit it and get it ready for your business. It's even very good for more advanced users because you can design very complex layouts with multiple overlapping elements on pages, really get them to look very polished, very premium. And again, usually your theme has done this for you because the theme you select will already look very nice in the way you want. But if you do need to tweak it, Elementor is a great interface option for you to do that. And so some of the things you'll see if you start using Elementor is on the left-hand side here, you see there's a bunch of elements, including headings, images, videos, things like that. So when you use Elementor, you simply click on an element and you drag it over on the right, which is kind of a layout of the page. Either you're building from scratch, or in most cases, you're just customizing the layout that the theme already has provided. So it's very drag and drop. It's easy to incorporate new elements. You can also preview your web page on mobile, tablet, or desktop with one click in Elementor. And it's called a real-time editor. So if you change some text, you will see that happen in real time on your screen. And with one click of a button, it'll be updated on the internet for all of your website visitors to see as well. So if you were going to get started with Elementor, the steps would be, if it's not already included in your theme, and a lot of times it is, like I said, it's the most popular editing interface that I've come across. But you can search for it in the plugin library as step one. You can upload and install that. And then you'll have the ability to edit pages with what it says Elementor. There'll be a new button that says Edit with Elementor. And then, like I showed on the previous screen, you'll have the ability to drag and drop text, images, and other elements to a website to customize it. So moving on, I wanted to talk now about security of WordPress. This might be the second most frequent question I get from my audience. So how is WordPress secure? Is it a good secure platform? So I'm going to try to answer that. So WordPress powers around 43% of internet websites. It's huge. So it's a very common target for hackers looking to exploit vulnerabilities because they would be able to potentially hack 43% of the world's websites. So because of this, WordPress has a huge focus on security, um, because they know a secure website protects their reputation, but also you as the user of their platform, your user data for your customers. So things that you can do to make sure your WordPress website is as secure as possible. The first one is to update your plugins, or when WordPress has an update, and they'll notify you of this when you log in, there'll be a big banner that says new version available. By updating it, you're going to keep security vulnerabilities to a minimum. So keeping all your plugins and themes and the WordPress itself updated is the first thing you should do. And I recommend you do this at least once a month. Check and see if there's updates. And if there are, you can just click the button that says update to make sure those get updated. Secondly, always have strong passwords. So by default, your host might impose some sort of um, restriction on creating a too simple password like 1234, but some hosts, they don't care. And that would be a big risk if you created an admin password that was easily guessable. Your website could be the target of a hack, and then the data, like credit card data or any data you have for your e-commerce store or content on your website could be tampered with. So create strong passwords. If you create other user accounts on your WordPress website, also make sure they're creating a strong random password. So, like I mentioned, there's plugins that can do just about anything on WordPress, and there's a whole bunch that are focused on security. Some of the most popular ones are WordFriends, Security, or Solid Security. And these do enable an additional layer of real-time protection against threats. They'll include things like firewalls, scanning your site for malware, which could be some code running on there that a hacker put there, and security hardening, which will prevent things like brute force attacks or people trying to guess your password until they get it right. So, do you need one of these? Not necessarily. If you're a small business just starting out, you might not need a security plugin. For the most part, they have a free level, but then you have to pay for them if you want to go a little bit deeper and have more advanced features. If you're at all concerned about the security of your site or the data you're storing, so maybe you're storing a lot of documents, maybe a PDF format or something else of rather secure things, and you think this is a risk if they were hacked and stolen, in that case, you might decide you do want a security plugin. But many businesses, they don't have these. Many businesses just have a website that talks about their business and contact info, in which case I wouldn't worry too much about a security plugin. And lastly, limiting the number of login attempts is a good way to prevent what's called a brute force attack. Now, many of these security plugins in step number 3 also have this feature, but if you're just looking to limit the number of login attempts, here's two that are basically focused on that. So they can automate this type of protection. So if you follow some or all of these security measures, your website will be much more secure and you'll be at less risk of being hacked and having a data breach. Now, I want to clarify briefly the difference between WordPress.org and WordPress.com because I see a lot of people who are confused over this point, and also I think that the WordPress organization did not do a very good job in branding or differentiating these two services or these two offerings. So WordPress.org is the free version that we're focused on talking about today. It does give you the unlimited theme support. So there's these thousands of starting themes, also sometimes called templates, and you can use any of those over on WordPress.org. On WordPress.com, they limit the themes you have available to a very small selection. So WordPress.org is definitely better with the themes. Also on WordPress.org, any of the plugins in the plugin store you can install and run, whereas on WordPress.com, they just don't allow plugins. On WordPress.org, you pay the hosting fees, which are around $6 to $10 a month. On WordPress.com, they host you for free if you only need 3 gigabytes of storage. So that is a plus with WordPress.com. The hosting is included. On WordPress.org, you have full e-commerce freedom. So you can create a store that can sell anything imaginable, subscriptions, physical products, digital products, whatever you want. On WordPress.com, you actually have to upgrade to a very expensive $45 a month plan to have e-commerce ability on your website. WordPress.org gives you full branding freedom, so you can tweak the layout and the look of your website however you want. But on WordPress.com, they put their logo and they say built on WordPress.com across your website. You have to pay additional to remove that, so that looks less professional to have WordPress.com branding. On WordPress.org, you get access to all the SEO features that are available on the internet. So every type of advanced search engine optimization tool or technique you can use over on .org, but on WordPress.com, they give you very limited control over your SEO. Similarly, WordPress.org gives you full analytic control. So if you like Google Analytics or Facebook Pixel Analytics, you can install any type of analytics you want and see in a ton of detail who's on your website and what they're doing. On WordPress.com, they give you their own very small suite of analytic tools, and they don't allow you to use any of those fancier ones, which in my opinion are much better. And on WordPress.org, you do the maintenance. So if there's an update available, you're the one who has to see that banner, you click the update button. It's a very simple process, and anybody can do that. But you do have to be aware that this is a manual process on your part, whereas on WordPress.com, they do maintenance and security updates on plugins, etc. So as we can see, WordPress.org is definitely the choice for most people here. If you're running a business, you're going to need the e-commerce support. You don't want to pay $45 a month. Some people started off on WordPress.com who I've talked to ended and found out it wasn't the right version and then tried to like transfer over, but there is no easy way to transfer over. You're basically stuck with building your website all over again on WordPress.org using the interface that I'm showing you today. So just so you know, before you get started, WordPress.org is probably the way you want to go. So if you've chosen WordPress and you're going to be building on WordPress.org, your first task is really to pick your theme. And your theme is the starting look and feel, including colors, fonts, spacing, maybe graphical elements or animations, all that stuff is included in the theme. And there's 3 popular places I like to go to find WordPress themes. Don't worry about writing any of these down because this presentation will be emailed to you afterwards, and these are links directly to these sites. So the first one is the WordPress.org website itself. They have some very minimalistic and light websites. They're not very fancy. They don't have many pages. In some cases, they can work, but most people want to go with something a little bit more creative. And in that case, the Theme Forest website is a great one. Many professional looking websites from developers from around the world, and you can pick exactly what you want. You can search for your industry. So again, let's say you're making, maybe you're making handmade soaps. You can search for soap and you'll find websites that are custom made to sell soap, so many topics and industries are already catered for. And ColorLib is another great option. Beautiful, elegant, and modern looking websites can be found there. Some are free and some you pay for a small one-time purchase fee. So I mentioned that WordPress.org is already giving you a base level of SEO compatibility with Google and the other search engines. And that's great because you don't want to worry that some code on your website is going to be incompatible with Google next year and it'll decrease your search rankings dramatically. So that won't happen. But like with anything, you can customize your SEO quite a bit to increase your search ranking. And this is important because these are going to be free website visitors you don't have to pay anything for just because your website's coming up in the searches. So here are 4 of the most important factors that go into your SEO. I just want you to be aware of so you can work on these as you develop your website. First one is the quality of your content. So this is, do you use proper grammar and proper spelling? Do you have all caps or a lot of exclamation points that kind of look weird? You want to be, proper, I would say somewhat formal, but depending on your audience, you could be humorous. Of course, you can use different text as you want to really target your market. But the quality is important. So you do want to make sure that grammarly speaking and spelling everything is there is going to be perfect. Second is the level of user engagement. Google and the other search engines can tell how long people have spent on your website, how engaged they are, how many links they clicked on. So the longer they spend and the more engaged they are, this really helps boost your SEO because Google says, wow, people are spending 5 minutes on this site and going to a bunch of pages. They're obviously finding it useful. So you want to boost your user engagement. You can do this by having good images, creative videos. People like watching videos, so that's a good way to get them to stick around on your homepage for a minute or two. If Google sees people are leaving your website after just a few seconds, it's a red flag to them, and they're going to decrease your SEO. Third is mobile friendliness. So this is a more important metric every year as more and more people visit websites on mobile phones versus a bigger desktop or laptop. Now, pretty much any WordPress theme that has been made in the last 2 or 3 years is going to be very mobile friendly. You wouldn't have to worry about it not resizing properly or displaying things weird. If it's within the last 2 or 3 years, you should be fine. If you find a theme or you're using a theme that's older, something from 4 or 5 years ago, you might be experiencing issues on mobile devices just because they've been updated a lot. Their operating systems have gone through a lot of changes in the last 5 years. So websites built for 5-year-old tech are not going to be displaying as well as they should be. So if you're using an older site, you probably want to double check that it works well on Apple and Android phones. But if you're using a newer website theme, you shouldn't need to worry. And number 4 is the number and the quality of any inbound links to your website. And this is an important but often not utilized concept to SEO, where the more websites other than yours that are linking to your website really help to boost your SEO ranking. Google and the other search engines might see that 10 other websites link to yours, and they'll say, wow, your website is a good source of information. It's somewhat of an authority in this field because all these others are linking to it. And so that's about the number of your inbound links. The quality of the link means if you have 10 websites linking to yours and each of those 10 get one visitor a month, they're not very high quality websites. Google will say, well, there might be 10 websites going to yours, but in total, those 10 aren't really visited much. But if those 10 websites maybe got 100,000 views each a month, that's a much higher quality referral. So those are the 4 factors that really impact your SEO the most, and they're definitely ones you can address as a builder of a website to make sure you get those free visitors. You don't need to pay anything for the website traffic. Definitely help you boost your online sales and your profits. So next I'm going to walk you through the major sections of the WordPress dashboard. If you've ever seen a WordPress website before, this will be instantly familiar to you because they haven't really updated this look and layout in 4, maybe 5 years. So it's looking a bit dated now as we're going into 2025. And I don't know when they're ever going to update it to make it look more modern, but it's still navigable, it's still functional, and that's what I'm going to show you here next is just the main sections you need to be aware of. Now, if you look at Wix or Squarespace, those other competitors I mentioned, you will see their interfaces look, I would say, a lot more intuitive to a modern internet user. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Over here on the left, you have your toolbar, and there's these different pages here. Some of them you can kind of forget about. The one called Posts was meant for when people use this platform as a blogging platform and you create blog posts. Not many businesses use that feature anymore. So the first one you need to pay attention to is media. The second one, this is where you will manage all of your images, and maybe if you're hosting your own videos, also manage your videos for the website. The next section is pages, and you'll spend a lot of time in pages as you edit the content of different pages. So every website will have an index page, but most websites will have other pages too. You might have a contact page, an about page, a services page, or maybe products. So these will all be listed under the pages section, and I'll show you this, how it looks on a real website in a moment. The next section is appearances. This is where you go to change your theme. If you have found a great theme you've purchased or downloaded for free and you want to go install that, you'll do that here under appearance. Under the plugins tab is where you'll go to see if your plugins have any updates, as well as searching for and installing new plugins to run on your website. The users tab lets you manage other users and their logins. And the settings tab has some just general settings that you kind of check once and make sure they're good, and then you never have to go back there again. So these pages I just mentioned do need to be properly set up before your website will be ready to be viewed by your customers. Here's a closer look in the media page. And this is where you go to see the current images that are on the website as well as remove any. If you definitely don't need them anymore, you can free up some storage space and you can add new images here before placing them on your website where you want them to go. Here in the page management is where you add new pages as well as delete pages if you so choose. but mostly you'll be editing the pages, and I will walk you through doing that. It's an important step to know how to do, and so I will be spending some more time showing you editing pages, but all the things you do on the different pages with the content you'll do here under the Pages tab. So next we have the theme management under Appearance. And this is mainly where you go to, if you want to use one of those default WordPress or .org themes, you can find it right here and then activate it or install it so your website is then looking like that theme. But if you choose a third-party theme, like most of you will also activate it here, and I'll walk you through that as well. This plugin section is a pretty important section, and you'll see here that there are some updates available in the beige banners, and there's a simple process to update. You just click a button that says Update Now. It usually takes a few seconds, maybe up to a minute, but then the plugin gets automatically updated. It's always a good idea to update plugins because it'll ensure that you have the best compatibility on your website, not somebody doesn't go there on a new phone and see some sort of an error message, and also the best security practices. It'll maintain the security of your website. In the user management section, you can add new users. And the real benefit of this is that you as the website owner, the business owner, should have the primary administrative username. But if you have anybody else work on your website, you don't want to give them your username and password. It's just a security vulnerability. The risk is if you don't want them having access to your website anymore, yet you forget to change your password, they will have access forever. Also, if they change your password, you would be locked out. So both are risks. You would just create them their own username, and then when they're done working, you can delete that and really keep your website secure. And there's no cost for adding as many users as you want to your website. And lastly, here we have the settings, the general settings. These are common to any WordPress theme you're running. So you will look in here and make sure everything's set the way you want and save these changes. And you shouldn't have to really update these much after that. So many of you are going to be selling products on your website. And in that case, what you need is an e-commerce plugin to run on WordPress. There's several to choose from, like with any types of plugins, but the one I recommend and the most widely used is WooCommerce. WooCommerce has several pros. And the first one is it's a very powerful yet very customizable plugin for WordPress. You can have product images, text, set your prices, set your shipping, set many more advanced features if you so choose. And WooCommerce does everything from taking the credit card number and processing that and depositing the funds into your bank account. So that's primarily what WooCommerce is for. And it integrates very nicely with WordPress, helps you build that online shopping experience, the checkout pages, the credit card processing. And it just really lets you slip that into your existing website without needing to code or do any complicated things. It's very intuitive. There's a few setting screens which are going to be important to understand as you set up WooCommerce. The first one here is the general WooCommerce settings, where you set things like your location, what country you're in, what currency you're going to be selling in. If you want to ship physical and digital products or just one or the other, you just set up some basic parameters. It's very simple. The next step is choosing your payment gateway. And so by default, WooCommerce integrates with Stripe and PayPal. And more as time goes on, they include support for more. But also, if you want to accept different types of payments, check payments, bank transfers, cash on delivery, these are all options. So WooCommerce really does allow you to be very flexible with how you accept payments. So no matter what you're selling, you have that option of taking the right type of payment. And then in step 3, you would do things like configure shipping methods. So you can have a default shipping method if all of your products tend to ship at the same price. You would just set that here. And you can get into more advanced shipping methods to customize this further if you need to, depending on the products you're selling. And so once you've gone through WooCommerce and just set up those settings, the next step you'll do when adding products is to click on the new text label that says WooCommerce over in your dashboard on the left, and you'll be able to click on the button that says Add New Product. You'll typically do this for every product you want to sell on your website, and it'll create that product page. You'll put the product name, which will obviously be at the top of the page. You'll type in the text description. You can also insert images here. You can make italics and bold font. You can make this description look however you want. And then you click the Publish button. And as soon as you click the Publish button, WooCommerce plugin is making this product page active on your website in usually the store section of the site. And you can have as many products here as you want. I've talked to businesses that have one or two and those who have over 1,000. And it doesn't really matter how many you have, WooCommerce can display all of those on your website. Now for each product with WooCommerce, you can set the most important things, which are going to be the prices. Typically, you can have a regular price and you can have a sale price. This is just a common selling tactic online. You kind of make it seem like they're getting a sale deal. It's up to you how you want to use that. You can set the number of inventory you have, the shipping rates, and other advanced features. So this is a pretty simple interface for setting up your e-commerce store using WooCommerce. And it's definitely something that everybody can learn how to do without taking too much time. So that ends the formal part of the presentation. What I want to do next is show a demo site, and I'm going to walk through some of the actual elements that we just discussed. So here we are on a website I created. We have over here on the left the dashboard with many of the same elements that we saw in the presentation. Every website, depending on the theme you select, is going to have some different items. So I have one called Astra here. You'll see that's a new one. I have Lightspeed Cache. Now, if you see additional things over here, don't worry about it. Some will be important for you to go into and customize, and some won't. And this just depends on the theme you select. But what I'm going to show is the ones that are going to be common through all the themes. So the first one we're going to do is go into the media section. And here in the media, you see all the images that are on the website. This shows both images that came with the stock website with that theme and the images I have added myself. To add a new image, you can just click on the Add New Media File button up at the top. And you can simply drag and drop your file into the section or upload them by clicking Select Files. Now you'll see it does have a message that says maximum upload size is 2 gigabytes. So this is a very large size file. Not many images would be that big. This, you might run into that limitation if you're trying to upload a video, but that's probably not going to happen to most people. So it's very simple. Once you've uploaded your images here, and they are now available to place on your website, and I will show you that in a moment. When I click on the Pages section, now I see the different pages on this website. You'll see here that there's one that says Home Front Page. So the fact that it has a designation front page is important. It says that this is the main page people go to when they type in your website. You cannot have a website that doesn't have a home page. It would just show an error message. So you want to make sure you don't accidentally delete this by clicking the trash. You can delete any of the other pages. Every other page is optional except for the home page or the front page, often called home, but it doesn't have to be called home. It will say front page here. So if I want to edit any of these pages, the process is about the same. I can click the edit button here. Also, if I had Elementor, it would have an additional button that says edit with Elementor in this list here. So that's when you would see edit with Elementor. If you see edit with Elementor, I would go ahead and use that. Like I said, it's a very powerful, simple interface, but you'll see even as I click the edit on this, I'm going to get an interface that is also very easy to navigate. So in this interface over on the left, I have some options I can add in, a button, an icon, an image. And if I just simply drag that to the website, it'll place this area for me to pick an image. So if I want to pick an image from my media library, because I just added it there, I'll just click Media Library. And then I'll simply select the image that I want to add. And I'll click Select. And it will have added this image into the website. If I want to delete the image, you can usually find that option by looking at the dot, 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 and there'll be an option to delete. So adding and removing any of these elements is very simple. But if you want to edit the content of something that's already here, all of these editors are called a WYSIWYG editor. So what that means is as you hover over an element, if you want to change it, you just retype it. So if I wanted to change this, I would just simply retype it. And any changes I make on this screen will be saved to the website. Now, as soon as I'm done making changes that I want to make, there's a blue button in the upper right that says Save. As soon as you click this button, you will have saved these changes, and anybody going to the website after that will see the latest changes. So it's a very simple and intuitive process of editing your starting template, adding elements if you so choose, deleting elements as I showed, and editing text. If you want to edit an image that's already here, you can simply click on the image, click on the options, well, yes, in this case, I don't have the option to actually swap out this image just as this theme. I could simply delete the image and drag in a new placeholder and select the appropriate image. So this is typically the process of editing the pages. Now I'll go ahead and back out of this page and not save the changes because I don't want those to actually be saved. And so any of the pages you see here will be the same process to edit these different pages. And so the next section we're going to talk about is under Appearance. And Appearance is where you're going to generally just select the theme that you want to use for your website. To add a new theme, you can click on the button up here that says Add New Theme at the top. And when I click on that, I'm going to see this listing of the WordPress.org websites. They're free websites. And you might find one here that you really love, in which case all you need to do is hover over it and click the Install button. But if you go to one of the other sites like Theme Forest and you found one there that you like better, you'll purchase that and get it as a zip file, and you'll save that to your computer. And then you'll come here and you'll click on the button here that says Upload Theme up at the top. And when you click on that, it says put your zip file, select your zip file, and click Install. And then it uploads your zip file and installs it, and then it changes your website to the new theme. So sometimes I get asked, well, is it possible to change your theme on a website you finished building as opposed to starting over on an unmodified theme? And the answer is it's not really possible to switch themes because from one element, one image box or one text box, from one theme to the next, they don't always line up. So you cannot really switch themes. I would suggest you really spend the time to find a theme that you feel really fits your website and your target market, and then spend your time customizing that rather than anticipating maybe changing themes down the road because that's usually very problematic. The next section is the plugin section. And here we can see that there are these installed plugins on this site. And you can tell I've been a bit negligent in updating them because every single one has an update. So I'll go ahead and do an update on one of these to show you how it works. We'll just do the top one. I'll click the Update Now button, and that one updated very, very quickly and it's already done. So you just simply need to go and update these. Generally speaking, there's no downside to updating once a month. The risk is if you don't update for too long, you might find there be errors in your website. And so, for example, this one gave an unexpected update failed message. I don't know why quite yet. I would have to check some more log files and see. It's pretty rare to see an update failed, but if it all else fails and you don't know why, they always do have the creator of the plugin, in this case, Brainstorm Force, which is probably a company of developers. They always have a contact email address, and you could then simply say you're getting an error message, and they would be able to explain why. But generally speaking, 99% of the time, you wouldn't get any kind of update problems. So if you want to add a new plugin that's not in this list, let's say you want to add WooCommerce, you go up to the top and you click this button that says Add New Plugin. Okay, well, it looks like updating that that plugin gave some sort of an error on this site, unfortunately. But when you click Update Plugin, what you're going to get is the store front that's going to show you about selecting a plugin, and you'll be able to search for one and install it there. And so the last page that we're going to talk about, and I'll go back to the slide deck quickly, is the user management page. And here you can just simply select to add a new user by clicking the Add New button at the top, and give the username, give it a name and a password, and select its role. So if you want it to be a full administrator like you, or just an editor of pages, you would select that and add that user and click that button. So it's a very simple process to add the new users. And the final page is settings, which will look just like this. You can specify your site title, which is the name of the site that goes up at the top in the browser bar. So if you have your business name, you probably just want to put it in there. You can also put in a tagline. And these are also important for your SEO. So Google will see your site title and tagline and match up those words with the search term somebody's looking for. So don't forget that the site title and tagline are also important. So you want to try to use words there that are both representative of your business name, but in this case, the site title says Khadijah's Kitchen. It was a restaurant website. I think it was Middle Eastern food. So you could actually then, in your tagline, describe the type of food a bit more. So if somebody searches Google for Middle Eastern food near me or something, you have the option of those words matching up with the site title or the tagline. So that concludes the presentation and that live walkthrough. So now I'd be happy to take your questions and get through as many of those as we do have time for.
Okay, thank you, Cameron. We do have a couple questions that have popped in. Starting back with first question. I've already established a website with WordPress.com. So can I integrate my Square payment system with my website to collect product payments?
On WordPress.com, if you are paying for that more expensive e-commerce capability, I believe they interface with Square. Square is one of the major ones. It'd probably be Square, Stripe, and PayPal. So again, you would need to be paying at that tier of 45 a month. But assuming you are, then you should have in your WordPress.com settings the ability to go in and link it to your Square account. You'll have to create your account over at Square separately. And one of the things that account will do is you'll tell Square what your business bank account information is, so they'll know where to deposit your funds. So once you've set up the Square side, you will just go into your settings and there should be the ability to link it. They have a system to link those two together. So it should be pretty straightforward. The focus of the presentation is mostly on WordPress.org. So I'd say if you run into any problems going through that process, to contact WordPress.com support and follow up with them and ask about, integrating your Square payments with them.
Okay, what is an index page? Something you
So an
referenced
index
earlier.
page, yeah, it's a great question. It is, generally speaking, that front page that I said is the critical one on every website. If you don't have your index page, in WordPress terms, it's called that front page. If somebody went to your website, they would just get an error message, probably saying file not found or something like that. So every theme will definitely have that page. It will be labeled as front page, so you won't accidentally delete it. And it's the most important page. You can actually delete all the other pages, but you can't delete that one and have your website still work.
Is it legal to add a public figure, famous person, picture to your website or to your web page?
That's a good question. I'm not a legal expert, so I'm not going to be able to say definitively yes or no. I think from my experience, it sounds like a bit of a risky endeavor. Um, Generally, I think if you're profiting off of somebody else's image or likeness, then you have the potential for being sued there. So again, I would talk to an attorney and get really a specific answer, but I think in general you would want to stay away from that.
Is there a way to make your site invisible while you are reconstructing it?
Yes. And so when you go to the pages section and you look at the options as edit. One of the options is called draft, draft mode. So if you just toggle that on, what it means is the page won't be visible on the internet to anybody. It's only visible to you logged in as the administrator. So you can edit the page in complete privacy. And then when you're ready for it to be launched, you would just take it off of draft mode and it would be then public. And I believe it even says that. If it's not in a draft mode, it's by default in a public mode. And when you first install a theme, it's going to make everything public, which I find kind of nice as you test your website. And generally, if you're a newer business or you have a new domain name, nobody's going to be going to your website anyway. But if you do have website traffic and you don't want them to see a site in the process of being built, you would just want to enable that draft mode on the page you're working on and then turn off draft mode when it's ready.
Can the same theme, for example, hello picture, can be used by more than one startup? Does that make sense?
I'm not sure. Yeah, it doesn't sound like a question, but maybe I'm just not hearing.
I'm going to read it exactly how it's stated. And Mahasti, if you could actually drop the question in again if we don't have it right. Can the same theme, i.e., hello picture, can be used by more than one startups?
All right. I think they're asking if you find a theme that you really like, can multiple businesses or multiple startups be using the theme? And the
I
answer is,
think
of
so,
course,
yeah.
because you're the theme's going to come with some default images and text, which you're going to change. So, as soon as you customize the theme, it's now going to be yours. It's going to be your own version. So yeah, and I'm sure this happens a lot. There's probably a lot of businesses using the same starting theme, but they've tweaked it, as they will to make it their own.
Right. And yes, that was the correct
Yeah,
question.
right.
Thanks. Let's see. Are the inbound links you mentioned links that we would be sharing on our website?
So it's the links other websites are sharing to yours. So let's say you have a small local news outlet and they do a news story on you. They publish this online, and if they at the bottom of that they put a link to your site. That is an inbound link, and that would be a very useful one to have. You've gotten some press in a news story or news article. They're linking to your site so people can find your products, but also it really boosts your SEO because that news outlet, that news site's probably going to be up for forever, right? For 5 or 10 years. And so that's a permanent inbound link to you. And Google sees that over time. It really helps to boost. So you can get that with, news outlets or somebody running a story on you, somebody writing a blog post about your business, a partner that you might have, if they talk about you on their website, and you can sometimes also do that for them. If they give you an inbound link because they mention you on a site of recommended suppliers of a product, you could also do that for them, and it does help both parties. So you can think strategically about who would be good places to ask for those links to your site from.
How do taglines work?
So taglines, in the general settings, some browsers will allow you to see more than just the site title, especially if you hover over a tab. Sometimes, depending on your settings, you will see the tagline appear. And so the site title is kind of the shorter text that if you look at any browser tab, it's just what you see in that little space the tab gives you. But often if you hover over that, the full tagline appears. And so it's useful just to tell people more about your business, but also it's useful to boost your SEO by thinking about which words people are going to be searching for when they are looking for your product, your service. And so you can incorporate as many of those words as possible into your site title, your tagline, and also throughout the content of your website, all the headings and all the paragraphs. The closer to match those words, the better your SEO is going to be. As I talked about with those 4 different elements to helping your SEO, that was one of them.
Do you recommend a backup plugin such as Updraft Plus? How often do you recommend we back up before every plugin update?
So great question. A backup would essentially take a snapshot of your website at any given time and have a list of ones you can revert to if something happened. So something happened, maybe being there's a failed update that crashed your site. Maybe you accidentally deleted a page and you're like, oh shoot, I needed that page. You can revert to the backup. I think it's a good idea. The frequency of backups probably is determined by how frequently you update the page, the website. So if you're updating it every single week, I would probably take a backup around once a week or before every major change. There's no downside to having a lot of backups. They typically don't take much storage space, and you probably wouldn't fill up your hosting storage capacity for many, many years. And then you can start deleting old backups. So many of the backup plugins I've seen are free, and then if you want more advanced features, you can pay a small fee for that. So generally, if you want to click a button yourself, like a manual button, and then it backs up, those are free. But if you want it to automatically do that on a schedule you set, you might have to pay for the automatic aspect. But I think it's a good idea, and there's many out there. I don't have a recommendation of one specific backup plugin because I just don't have that much experience with multiple different backup plugins. But overall, I think they can be a good idea.
At WordPress.org, I say I have to download WordPress 6.7.1. Is this the first step to start creating any page?
So that's a great question. You don't need to take that step because what you'd want to do is go to a hosting provider. So let's say you decided on GoDaddy, which is one of the biggest website hosting platforms and one I do recommend for most people. You'll go to GoDaddy and one of their options will be host a website. You'll pick a plan, the hosting plan. I think they start around $7 a month, which is pretty competitive. And then as you're setting up your account, one of the questions will be, are you building a WordPress website? Yes or no. All you need to do there is say yes. And they're going to go and essentially get that version of WordPress you just saw, install that for you, and you don't need to worry about it. So that's the process is you let the host get the latest version of WordPress and set that up. And it usually just takes a few minutes as they transfer those files and install things on your hosting platform, your server for you.
What is the best software to make your own video to add to the WordPress site?
Yeah, so when it comes to creating videos, videos are very useful for increasing your user engagement. Um, if you, so the answer to your question varies a bit on what you're trying to sell and what your video will be. But if you have footage already of your products, so say you're selling soap and maybe you took footage on your phone of your process and your finished product, you have all these clips you want to make a video of. Canva, canva.com is one of the best online video editors. You can splice those pieces together. You can make some transitions, make a soundtrack. You can have text overlay, and it's very, very user-friendly. First-time users find it very intuitive. So Canva is a great option if you want to do that online. If you're looking for an offline video editing application. There's one called DaVinci Resolve, like Leonardo da Vinci. It's called DaVinci Resolve, and it's the best free video editing platform, which does a lot of what Canva does. It is probably a bit more complex and a bit more advanced, but you can do it offline is the main advantage. You're doing it purely on your own computer, so that might have some advantages for you. So either Canva or DaVinci Resolve for creating videos for your website.
Okay, so this next question, we have someone here who is looking to move, currently using Squarespace, planning to move to WordPress and hire a designer to revamp the website. They're wondering how much upkeep and follow-up will they be able to do by themselves without having to keep paying this person for maintenance?
So great question. I would, of course, familiarize yourself with your WordPress dashboard and the website as it's being built. You want to not be surprised if they're installing a plugin to do something on your website that you need it to do. You should know what the plugin's called. You should know what its purpose is. So when you look at your dashboard on the left and you see these names, you're going to be like, oh, this is the one that handles this element. The more you know about that, the faster you can wean yourself off of this developer because you will learn where to go to make simple changes as opposed to always having to ask them. So that's my advice is just stay involved with the process, ask questions of the developer as the work is going. And then as soon as you're comfortable, ask them to kind of train you on the major elements of the website and where to go to update certain things and ask a lot of questions and take notes. And then you should be fine on your own. And most developers are happy if you come back a few months later and say, oh, I can't figure this out. Can you help me? they'll probably be willing to do that. But I agree, you don't want to be dependent on a developer for long. It gets very expensive, but plus you have a long delay if when you want to make a change and are they available that day, maybe it takes them a week. If you can just go in and do it yourself, you save a lot of time and money. So I highly recommend you move towards that into the spectrum as fast as you can.
So I already have a WordPress website for my coaching business. And now I also have a cottage business. It's unrelated, selling holiday crafts. I want to create a small and affordable separate website so I can take orders and initiate mailing. What would you recommend?
So if you already have a WordPress website, you're probably already familiar with the interface. So I think that's a solid option. But if the main focus is on selling some e-commerce crafts and you just want to ship them and you want a very simple website just to do that, then Shopify is a good option because Shopify, while it does have slightly higher fees, you'll spend less time building the website and you will have that focus on e-commerce right from the beginning. So you could save you 3 or 4 hours of setup, but it will end up costing more because if you want, e-commerce with Shopify, those fees, those monthly fees might be a bit higher. So those are the two I would recommend, either WordPress if you're willing to put a little bit more time in up front to create the site, or Shopify if you prioritize your time more than that monthly fee.
Next one, I hear that it's best for SEO to have as much information about your business on the main page that may be featured on other pages. So I think they're looking for your thoughts on this.
Yeah, great question. Yes, you want your index page or that front page to be the most um, well thought out page as far as SEO, for sure, because most people don't come to a website by first going to the contact page or the about page. That almost everybody comes to the website through that index page, the front page. And that's how the search engines prefer to do that as well. So the index page should typically have enough text to fully describe your products. Again, having those keywords that people are searching for. So if your product is handmade soap, you might have those words repeated several times. You might talk about high quality ingredients or maybe the scents you have, like lavender. You want to be specific. So if somebody's searching for handmade lavender soap, you want to have enough keywords in there that your website is getting a good match across with a search term. So yeah, the index page is the most important for that. I saw one recently that had only one sentence of text on the home page, and it was a red flag because that's not enough. It's not enough for the search engines to have a sense of what your business is, and so they're losing a lot of their SEO traffic because of that one reason. So how much text is enough? There's no one solid one answer rule, but at least you're going to want around half a page of text. You could have up to a page of text. You could maybe even have 2 pages of text. But you do want to space it out. You want it to be user friendly. So you want to have some images interspersed with text, not have a whole block of text. But if you break it up and kind of have some left and some right and have images, then you can easily fit a page to maybe 2 pages of text. And I think that would be ideal for most businesses.
Can you link your business Google reviews to your website?
Yes, so Google reviews probably refers to the Google Maps reviews, which is the main review platform Google has. If your business has a location on Google Maps, and you'll see that people can leave you reviews and you can reply to the reviews. So there is an option, there's actually a plugin, and I don't know if Google makes it or a third party, but what it lets you do is to put the real-time Google reviews on your website in a little section there. So I would look for that plugin is the easiest way, probably Google Maps. It's usually called embedding that. So you might search for embed Google Maps reviews, and you'll see some plugins that will allow you to do that very easily.
Great. Let's see. Should I have separate WordPress sites for unrelated services and products?
So if they really are unrelated, then yes, probably, because you don't want to confuse your target market. If somebody goes there looking for one of your products, which maybe is the hand soap example, and your other product is you're making craft beers, you might have no overlap in those markets. So if somebody's going to look for the soap and they see beer, they might get turned off. They might be confused with what they're looking at. So if they are separate like that, I would have two completely distinct separate websites with their own domain names. and possibly their own business names as well. Or you could have one business over both. There's no reason why you couldn't have one business name that has two different websites.
Let's see. Is there a way to limit the spam inquiries that come through a contact form?
That's a good question. So, the way many websites are handling getting unwanted spam sent to you through a contact form is what's called a CAPTCHA, or the little puzzle you have to solve. And we see all sorts of different types. We see some that are click on the image of the cat, or click on the image of the school bus. So they're getting kind of evolving as AI is being able to crack them. So all you can do is have a plugin or part of your contact form that has that CAPTCHA section. It's usually there by default, but some are very advanced and they're harder to solve, which kind of frustrates some people and they might give up. But on the other hand, they're much more stronger protection against getting that spam. So it's an evolving cat and mouse game right now with the spam coming through contact forms. All you can do is pick a captcha that you think is not is a good balance on your website of against being too annoying and time consuming versus giving you the level of blocking the spam that you want. And again, you can find that if you look in the plugins and you search for a captcha, and you'll see many options. I don't have one that I would recommend off the top of my head, but you can look for those that have the highest reviews and install it and see if you like it. And if you don't like it, you can also disable or even completely uninstall any of these plugins very easily. So you're not locked in.
Does Elementor work with bricks, or I have to pick one of the two?
I'm not sure what that means. I'm not familiar with the term bricks, so I
Okay,
don't know how to answer that one. But if that person wants to elaborate more, I might have an
exactly.
answer.
And that was our last question at the moment, so we'll see if they elaborate. And if they have any other questions, go ahead and pop them in. We got just over 15 minutes to pick Cameron's brain. So I would make use of this time. And Cameron, while we're waiting, if you have any words of wisdom that you've just given us a million of them, but if you have some more,
Yeah, of
quick
course.
synopsis.
Well, they've been great questions so far, and I think, the main thing is WordPress being a flexible and customizable platform. We have all these questions because we have all these options. Now, if you're building a site on Wix or Squarespace, you couldn't even be asking these questions because these options aren't available. So, something to keep in mind, if it sounds kind of overwhelming, if you're thinking, is WordPress right for me? And you're all these terms are unfamiliar and it just seems too much, then maybe it's a sign that Wix or Squarespace or even Shopify might be a better starting option. But again, I think WordPress is a great choice for 90 or 95% of businesses because it can grow with your business, and those other platforms won't be able to expand as you need them to.
Okay, so I don't see any other questions dropping in, or oh wait, we do. Let's see. So the other person has not followed up on that one question. Um, Yes, someone's asking about counseling. If you do email help@virginiasbdc.org, we have people who can help you with your website. Cameron can also, if you would like to reach out to him, but please know that he works with us, but he does have his own company. So Cameron, I'll let you, if you want to elaborate more on how they should reach out to you, please do. Um,
Yeah, I think the best way is to go ahead and email help@virginiasbdc, which is right here on this slide. And you can just let us know that you attended this session and that you would have some follow-up questions for me, and then I'll get that message and we can correspond directly.
Perfect. Let's see. Someone just thanked you for all this information. I'll go ahead and read it. Thank you so much. This was very informative. Sometimes I don't even know what I don't know, and you helped uncover some of the very beneficial topics. So thank you, Cameron. And I don't see a follow-up to that other question. So I guess we can go ahead and wrap up. We got another thank you. So Cameron, thank you so much. As always, so very good. And let's see, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up. I'm sure we have a lot to do out there, right? Move on to the next, as they say. So I do want to thank you, Cameron, as always, and thank everyone for joining us today. And remind you that you will receive an email with a link to the recording and to the slides. If you would like to sign up for upcoming webinars or access recorded webinars, please visit virginiasbdc.org/training. You can sign up for a free and confidential advising session by emailing help@virginiasbdc.org or via our website. And we hope to see you all next time. And we hope you all have a wonderful holiday season and a very happy new year.
Thanks,
Take care.
everybody. Have a
Bye.
good day. Bye-bye.